Hey guys, just want to thank you for tuning in today to our podcast and listening. We pray over these sermons that we put on here, and we just believe that they will bring strength and life and encouragement to your daily walk, and that they will build you up in your faith and push you towards Christ. And we pray that today is a day, as you listen, that all those things are accomplished. I have been so thoroughly encouraged by the response to this series that we're in. It's been a lengthier series, but it has been very well received, and for me it's been a very challenging series, but I have absolutely loved it. We are looking at the lives of the 12 disciples this summer in a series called Follow Me, From Ordinary to Extraordinary. We're looking at the lives of these ordinary men that Jesus called to follow him. It didn't make sense to those people at the time, and it wouldn't make sense to us if we weren't able to just look back through the lens of the cross and see these people. If we'd have seen them before the cross and before Jesus, if we'd have been looking forward, we would not have been so okay with the decisions that Jesus made if we were helping him make those decisions. If Jesus had offered for you to come and help him pick the people that would help set the course for the ministry of the gospel, Christianity, the proclamation of the good news, and he said, I need you to help me find some people that would do a good job, in that time, you wouldn't have picked any of these people. You wouldn't have. But that's okay, because we don't do the picking. We don't get to do the picking. Some of us like to do the picking, but God is the one who does the picking, and sometimes, actually all the time, I'm very thankful for that. Because if someone had said, hey, Danny, in 2018, there's going to be this little church over in Jonesboro, we're going to have such and such amount of people, or I had a group of people trying to find the guy who would be able to preach to you guys, I guarantee you there'd be a lot of people who wouldn't pick me. But God said, hey, you little man, let's go. I got something for you to do. It doesn't make sense right now, but I promise in the end it will. And I'm so thankful for a God who is able to see past the humanity of us and see the glory that can be shown because of his amazing work on Calvary. Amen? Amen. So today we look at probably one of the most famous, but not as well-versed in the Bible, not as highlighted in Scripture, of men in the 12 disciple group named Thomas. Everyone knows who Thomas is, mainly because of one story that we kind of will get to at the end, but I don't want us to cast aspersions on little Thomas, if that's okay with you, because we call him Doubting Thomas, and we'll get to that story in just a minute. But what we will find out is that that's just who Thomas was. It wasn't like this one situation created doubt. Thomas was just that guy. Thomas, look, the very first time we see Thomas is in John chapter 11, and it's going to be on the screens if we want to go ahead and put it up there. But we kind of see this kind of side of Thomas that kind of, if you were to picture, like in myself, I was thinking, who could I relate him to in today's society that we would know? And all I could come up with is I have two little kids, so I come up with cartoon characters pretty quickly. I can spit those off the top of my head. So, if I was picking out a cartoon character that fit Thomas, I'd think of an Eeyore. He was kind of really just this gloomy. He had a really negative way of seeing life. It's just who he was. He was very pessimistic. Not like Philip. We learned that Philip was a little bit of a pessimist, but he was just someone who just saw reality. Thomas would pick something and make it up. Thomas would just see the worst, that worst case scenario that could happen. He'd go just a little bit darker than that if he could. So the first time we see Thomas, I preached about the resurrection of Lazarus out here in the pavilion not too long ago. I did a 2-week mini-series on Lazarus. And this is the first time you see and hear from this man named Thomas is in this story, where this man comes to Jesus and says, hey, look, the one that you love is dying, named Lazarus. He's sick, and you need to come. His disciples are with him when he gets this word. And Jesus is like, hey, his sickness will not be to death, but it will be to the glory of God. And they hear all this, and Jesus decides to stay and hang out for just a couple more days because God's getting ready to make a big point with the story of Lazarus. And if you were here for that, you got it. And maybe you've been in church your whole life and you kind of know where that went. But God's getting ready to make a very big event out of the death of Lazarus and prove he is now the resurrection and the life. So it was a really big deal to him. So he wanted to wait until Lazarus was dead. So a couple days later, he's like, all right, guys, we're going to go back and we're going to take care of Lazarus and we're going to wake him up. Disciples didn't understand that, and they were like, well, if he's just asleep, let him rest. That's really their answer. It was like, hey, if he's just sleeping, they said he was sick. If you're sick, you need sleep, so let him sleep and get well. And he was like, no, you don't understand. You're not, okay, obviously I spoke over your head. Let me dumb this down for you just a little bit. I got to go and heal him. Oh, okay. And they told him, they said, look, if we go back to that town, there's a lot of people wanting to kill you there. So it would be better off for us if you just kind of did what you did with that Roman centurion, like his son, and just kind of spoke the word. Like, that'd be kind of cool if you did that. That way we didn't have to go back around danger because they're trying to kill you down there. And he was like, no, look, we're going. Because let me tell you something. And he told a little bit of an analogy for him about how that those who do things in the light, you working with the light of God inside of you, you don't need to worry about stumbling. No, you're doing good. Do good. And God's going to keep you up. He's going to uphold you with, the Bible says that he upholds you with his righteous hand. So he's telling them that, and they're just like, well, wait, I don't understand. If we go there, we're going to die. And then Thomas speaks up. The very first time we hear from Thomas, he says this. After Jesus gave out a parable, he said, so Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, well, let us also go that we may die with him. Like, I don't think, like, when I read that at first, I was like, man, that's really awesome. Like, he's ready to die. But when I really thought about the character of Thomas, I don't see that here anymore. I don't see this guy like, yes, let's go. We're going to die, and it's going to be awesome. No, I see this guy. You've seen those movies where they're, like, planning this big attack, and it's like everyone knows that everyone's going to die in this attack. You've seen war movies like that. It's like, look, dude, no one's coming back alive. And you always got that one guy who's like, man, I really just don't really want to go. But if everyone's going, I'll go too, and I'll die with you. I can just see that's kind of the mentality that Thomas had here. He's like, even though Jesus had just told him, look, we're not going to stumble. Like, go back and read it. He told him word for word, look, Jesus knew his time was coming, but he also knew it wasn't yet. And so he told him, hey, we're not going to stumble. We're going to go do good work, and we're not going to stumble. Don't worry about it. And Thomas is just like, I don't believe that. All I see is people trying to kill you, and I doubt that we're going to make it out of this thing alive. But if we're going to go, hey, let's go, you know? We're going to die anyway, so let's just go. So you can see even in the very first time you see Thomas, he has this doubting personality. I know Jesus just told me that we ain't going to die, that we're not going to stumble, but man, all I see is everybody trying to kill him, and I can't help but doubt that we're not going to make it out of this thing. I guess that's all you see. So Thomas, right off the bat, man, I'm just like, man, Thomas, I feel like, you see, Peter had this, we talked about Peter the very first week, how that when Peter was like, when Jesus was telling him, hey, we're going to die, I'm going to die, and I'm getting ready to go to the crucifixion, and Peter was like, I'll die with you, like, to prison or to death, you know, like, Peter probably meant it. Like, I believe Peter was the guy who was like, I'll charge the bull for you. You know, give me the red thing, I'll stand out, let's go. Thomas was more like, man, I mean, if everybody else is, let's go. Like, but this is another cool thing I see with Thomas. Doubt doesn't disqualify you from following Jesus. Right? Like, he doubted right here. And yet, if you keep reading, he goes back with him to Lazarus' little village to watch this amazing event. I learned through this little story, this little bitty scene where you see the doubting of Thomas already in the beginning when you first meet him. Doubt doesn't disqualify you from following Jesus. For some reason, we think that when we start to doubt, it's almost like we need to be benched. You almost when you almost feel like you've been taught that to doubt is to sin. And so when you doubt, you might as well just kind of hang on just a minute. Don't go nowhere. Don't continue. Just sit down until you get that real good faith that they preach about. You know, the one that no one doubts. Look, I'm going to tell you something. There ain't nobody in this church, ain't nobody been alive in history of mankind that has never doubted anything. So let's just put that over in a corner and let's just solidify that already. Look, doubt doesn't disqualify you from following God. And here's another thing. He was the one who spoke up and said, hey, we're going to die, let's go. Doubt doesn't disqualify you from leading. He said it and everybody went. So doubt doesn't disqualify you from following, and it doesn't disqualify you from leading. Doubt is just something humanity has to walk through because we don't understand God all the time. That's just the fact of it. That is just the honest reality to the truth, is that we cannot perceive the ways of God, so the only thing we can do is begin to doubt and question. And I love that it doesn't offend God. Hebrews chapter 14. Or chapter 4, if you'll go with me, I want to read this real fast. You don't have to go. It's fine. I didn't hear any pages flipping, so no one was going. It's cool. It's cool. Y'all just stand right there and watch. I'll get here. Don't worry about it. Man. Chapter 4 of Hebrews, verse 15 says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness." I've already told you that from the beginning, God knew who He was calling. Their personalities, their character, their weaknesses, their strengths was not something that God had to get to know and then decide what to do with it. God already knew what it was, and He already had a plan on how to use it for the... Oh, someone needs to hear this morning. Your weakness, God already knew, and He had a plan on how to use your weakness to still get Him glory. So don't just get to where you abhor your weakness. Learn how to make your weakness His strength, because the Bible says that it is in our weakness that His strength is made what? Perfect. And so we need to get to understand that God doesn't disqualify you for your weakness, but He's waiting on you to give the weakness to Him and give God glory in the weakness. God already knew doubt. God knew that years and years and years. Listen to me. This is the funniest thing I thought about this whole time I was praying about Thomas. God knew that there would be millions of churches around the world call this man Doubting Thomas. He knew that there would be series and sermons and books written about Doubting Thomas. And God still said, hey, you're the one I want to use. Because we're going to show the world how that in your doubt you can still follow. How that in your doubt you can still lead. How that in your doubt I can still get glory. So all of us that have sit around the table, sit around our lives looking and doubting a lot of things, hey, look, God's just looking for the next opportunity to take that doubt and show you how real He is and how good He is and how much He can work it out, even when you doubt what He can do. You see, it's not just doubting what God can do. There's like a few things that we all tend to really doubt, you know. We do tend to doubt God's will for our life sometimes. Like, is this really what you got for me? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? We also tend to doubt God's word, period. And there's some people, young people, especially the younger generations coming up, we're so smart. Not that the older generation is dumb. That came out wrong. I'm sorry. Let me back up. Like, you're smart. Like you are. But we're very pragmatic. We're very scientifically driven, this generation coming up. And we want reasons, and we want facts, and we want this. And, you know, you talk to a lot of the older generation, they'll just be like, just have faith. You talk to the younger generations, they're like, prove it to me. That's the big chasm, right? And so you got this generation coming up with a lot of questions and a lot of doubt. How can there really be a God? That doesn't make sense. Man, I'm telling you, I sat my whole life in church. And there's been many, many services. And I'm telling you, I've seen God do a lot of things. I've seen God heal people. I've seen a man when I was at the age of 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old, I was standing at the altar. My dad, they used to do altar calls where they come up. Anybody remember like the old-timey churches where they bring you up and they lay hands on you and pray for you? I don't know if y'all ever believe in that again, but the Bible does say if there be any sick among you, let them call for the elders of the church and they lay hands on him and they shall recover. I don't know what y'all believe, but that's in there. So, anyways, I used to do that. Like we did that a lot. And so they took that verse seriously in my church. So they would come up, like I remember at the age of 12, I was standing beside this guy because I was always at the altar with my dad. Like my dad, he loved for me to be around the altar. And I love being around the altar praying for people. And so this guy came up, I remember at the age, I was 11 or 12. I know that because I remember being bigger than what I was. So I was standing there looking up at this guy, and he had this big growth on the side of his neck. I didn't know at the time what it was. But all I remember, and I quickly learned afterwards, my dad and my mom told me that it was a cancerous growth, like it was on the side of his neck. And I remember some of y'all going, I don't know, some of y'all may leave after this. That's all right. Y'all go ahead. I remember my dad laying hands on him, and he just prayed a prayer, simple prayer. Simple prayer. Nothing crazy, nothing wild. Like I've seen wild, don't get me wrong. Like I've seen wild where the guy takes this big jar of oil and just kind of throws it everywhere. I've seen that. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. We ain't talking about that. Like, I mean, if you want to, I could do that, but I don't really prefer that. But he just kind of laid his hands on him, didn't yell, didn't scream, just a little hushed tones, prayed for this guy. And I watched, I promise to you, I watched as this thing disappeared off of his neck, gone, not there anymore. I remember I watched this guy. We was in this little bitty white church. I was sitting on the front pew, and this guy rolls in a wheelchair. No lie, rolls in a wheelchair, sits there all service. And he's just, and my dad's preaching. My dad preached revival. I told y'all I spent 250 nights a year in revival. That's what shaped me. And so I remember towards the end, and they, again, altar call, people up around the altar. We're praying. Dad's praying. I'm up just kind of watching because that's really all I knew to do at that time. I was just watching, you know. And so I was watching this guy, and this guy grabbed this other guy in the wheelchair by the hand and started talking to him. I remember watching it. He pulled him up to the altar, and my dad laid hands on him and prayed. And the guy looked at him and said, shook his head. Like the guy in the wheelchair shook his head. And my dad reached down, and I don't remember what he said because he was really close to him, and I was kind of over on the side with my mom. He just kind of said something to him, and he got his hands and picked him up. And that guy walked out of that service and never used the wheelchair again. I'm not lying to you. I don't care if you believe me. I know God's that big, and I know God's that strong, and I know God's that able. And so this is the thing. Like we doubt a lot of things. How can God do that? We don't see that anymore. How can God be real? Because we don't see if there's so much evil in the world, and God's all loving and all powerful. Why does he let all this happen? And we question and we question and we doubt and we doubt. That's just who we are. But God doesn't look at us and go, how dare you? How dare you doubt me? Because God's not a God of pride. He doesn't need you to have no doubt in order for him to do something. He doesn't need you to be just this rock, this mountain of faith for him to move in your life. Humanity doubts, and God still says you can follow. God still says you can lead. Doubt, have questions, doubt, that's okay, because I'm going to show you. If you'll just through the doubt follow, if you'll just through the doubt. See, that's the thing. You have to continue on through the doubt. Thomas doubted. Thomas doubted right off the bat, but he still followed. He's like, hey, we're going to die, but I'm going to go. And he didn't die. And in fact, he got to witness one of the greatest stories, one of the greatest miracles ever. Through a stone, Jesus spoke a word, and dead men came out. Like, that's just, come on now. Like, that's incredible. A man who doubted got to stand there and watch that. God will show you who he is regardless. You know, and that's not the only time. Like, you see him again in John chapter 14 where Jesus is telling him, hey, look, I'm going to go away to prepare a place for you. But you know the way. You know how to get there. And Thomas speaks up again. Hey, no, I don't know the way. Again, doubting. God says, hey, I'm telling you, I'm going to a place, and I promise you, you know how to get there. And Thomas like, nope, I don't know. I doubt that. And that's not true. Because here, listen, here's the thing. Like here's the thing. Thomas is just listening to Jesus at this point. And Jesus is telling him, look, I'm going to go somewhere. I ain't telling you. See, isn't that crazy? Like, I ain't going to tell you where I'm going, but you know where I'm going. That doesn't even make sense. Like, even I'm reading that, I'm like, God, you're literally not making any sense at this point. I can see why Thomas was like, dude, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know where you're going. You ain't telling me. It's kind of like the whole Abraham thing, where the Bible says that Abraham set off for a kingdom whose builder and maker was God, but he didn't know where it was. Like, it's like that's the kind of faith God's trying to get Thomas to have. And Thomas is like, look, dude, you're telling me you're going somewhere, but you ain't telling me where you're going, and I don't know how to get there. You're saying I do, but I promise, I got all the notes from every time we talked. You've never given me directions. You didn't give me an address. I can't put that in MapQuest. That's wrong. But you know what I also see? Here's what I want us to see before we get to the scene that everyone pictures of Thomas. Thomas really loved Jesus. Like, you may think that him doubting kind of made him love Jesus less. No, 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 no. How many knows that there is a reality to this, that the things that you love the most also bring about the fear in you the most? Like, you love something so much, you fear losing it. And you kind of, okay, whoa, let's no, hey. And then when God's telling Thomas, look, dude, I'm going to go somewhere. He's like, no, hang on. Whoa, wait a minute. Because we've already learned that these people only spent at most 2 years with Jesus. At most. From the moment he called them to the moment of the crucifixion, at most 2 years. Most people surmise about 1.5 years. And Thomas is like, dude, I've never seen anyone like you before. I've never met anyone like you. I've never seen love like this before. I've never known anyone to walk like you, talk like you, act like you, live like you. And now you're telling me 1.5 years later, you're leaving. I'm saying no. Wait a minute. I don't know if I know how to get to where you're going. If you're going to leave, you better best believe I'm going to have to know for a fact that I know how to get to you. I could see a little desperation in Thomas too, because I believe Thomas really loved Jesus. More so than what we think. Because Thomas did tend to doubt. And maybe in his life walking with Jesus, he doubted himself. Maybe walking with Jesus, there's this dude named Thomas who tended to doubt about who he was. Man, am I really worth? Why did you call me? I ain't Peter. I mean, just imagine. I ain't Peter. I'm not John, the one you love. Like, I hear him talk about it all the time. He says you love him. I don't know. Like, maybe you don't love me as much as you love. Like, just think that if he doubted those little situations that we see in the Scripture, how much more did the devil be able to play on his mind about the feelings and where he stood with God and how God felt about him? You see, because that's really where the devil gets you in your doubt. Does God really, really feel that way about me? Because I may have really screwed up. Or maybe I really do question him, and that's not good because you shouldn't question God. All of these things, and I know Thomas. I believe I know Thomas. I know that he had those questions. Man, do I really belong with these 12? Man, do I really belong? And whoa, if you're telling me you're going, then you're the only reason I'm here, so I don't want you to go. And I doubt that you're telling me that I know how to get to you, because I don't know how to get to you, man. I know how to follow you when you're here. But if you leave, then where does that leave me? So I believe that there is a sense of desperation in Thomas, and I believe that there is a longing and a love for Jesus from Thomas. And so I think that's how we needed to shape this before we went to John chapter 20. If you have your Bibles, you could go ahead and go there. John chapter 20. And here is the famous story of this man that we see. Man. Chapter 20, verse 24 is where we'll start. We just see that Jesus has appeared to the 12. And this is what it says. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. Why wasn't Thomas with them? I believe Thomas, after the death of Jesus, allowed his doubt to really consume him. We already saw where he basically begged and pleaded Jesus to not go anywhere. Hey, don't go, man. I don't know how to get to you. How are we going to know how to get to you? Like, we already see that he had this desire for Jesus not to leave him. And we already see from the first story that he was willing to die, even though he wasn't probably too happy about it. He was willing to follow Jesus, even when he thought it meant death. So maybe at this point, when Jesus had died and he was gone and he felt the separation that he thought was there, he probably wished, man, I wish maybe I'd have just died with him. You see, here's the thing about doubt in your life. Here's the thing about doubt. If you stay too long in your doubt, it will lead you to sorrow. You question things long enough, you'll begin to feel sorrowful. You begin to doubt God long enough, it'll lead you to a place where you're alone and you don't know what's going on and there's nothing but sorrow and pain and grief around you. 25, so the other disciples told him, we have seen the Lord. But he said to them, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger in the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. And see, man, we get on Thomas so hard right there. We get on Thomas so hard. Because they're like, man, you got people telling you they saw him. Like your boys are saying, hey, we saw Jesus. And you're still telling me you don't believe me? Man, every single one of those people who told him they saw him doubted the same way. You want Mark? Just go back to Mark chapter 16. Just go back there and read it. The whole Mary Magdalene, when Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene ran back to the 12 or to the disciples and said, hey, Jesus is alive. And they all did not believe. Not one of them believed. You see, it wasn't Thomas's doubt that separates him. It's where Thomas let his doubt take him. Thomas's doubt took him down a pretty dark road. One that separated him from the others. And listen to this. Listen to how much doubt he truly had. This is what I never read this whole part right here. 8 days later, they came to him and said, hey, we've seen Jesus. We've seen Jesus. He's alive. And because of his severe doubt and unwillingness to believe, it took him 8 days to get back to the house. I could just imagine some of the conversations that happened. Because I think those men stayed with Thomas. I really do. And they tried to talk to him. Hey, Thomas, look, man, we're telling you, I know you don't believe. And I know you're crushed. And I know you doubt. But I'm telling you, we saw him. No, I can't believe it, man. You didn't. Look, I asked Jesus to stay. I asked him to stay. I begged him to stay. I begged him to let me know where to go. And I still don't know. And he's gone. And now it's all over. Until I see him, I'm sorry, guys, I don't believe. 8 days of that conversation. Some of y'all, it's been a lot longer than 8 days. I don't know. I question. I doubt. I know I hear this, and I know I hear this, but I don't know. 8 days later, they were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. And here is my favorite part of Jesus. Right, here's my favorite part of Jesus. I've said it a couple times concerning different things that he did to these 12 at different scenes and situations. This is my favorite part of Jesus. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. You know my favorite thing about Jesus? Thomas didn't have to say a word. Thomas didn't have to ask God right then, Jesus right then, hey, can I touch? Can I touch? Can I put my hand? Because again, God knew the doubt he had. He came in the room, and without Thomas saying a word, he said, hey, you, I know what you need to believe. You need to touch this. You need to put your hand here. Because even though here we go. Even though you think you were alone 8 days ago, 8 days ago when those men came to you and said, hey, Jesus is alive, you may have thought you were alone, and when you said that, I didn't hear it. But let me tell you something, I've been there the whole time, and I heard you say, you need to touch my scars, you need to put your hand in my side, and so I don't need you to say it again, because I already know. Just come here and do it. Just come here and do it. If it's what you need, it's what I give. said this. Do not disbelieve, but believe. Can I just change that word just to fit the series here? Do not doubt anymore, Thomas. Don't doubt. Believe. Believe. See, here's what I want you to leave with, and I got to move on. Here's what I want to leave you with on this story. I don't think God told him to believe simply just because he's seen him. I think just like I told you, the fact that Jesus knew what he needed in order to believe was the reason God said, hey, I came into this room and you didn't have to tell me a thing. You didn't have to tell me your concern. You didn't have to tell me where you were struggling. You didn't have to tell me where you were doubting. I already knew. That should show you that I never left you in to begin with. That should show you that I've always been there. And that should be enough to say, hey, you don't doubt, but believe. Don't doubt, but believe. The Bible says he sticks closer than any brother, any father, any mother, any friend, anybody in the world. He says, I'll never. See, this is the thing. This is the thing. Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6 says that this is the truth, that your Lord your God shall never leave you nor forsake you. You don't think Thomas read that verse all the time when Jesus died. You don't think that this man trained up in the Bible, in the history, in Deuteronomy, knew that the Bible said, hey man, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I will be with you always, even until the end. You don't think he knew that. And you don't think that as he sat there after Jesus died, that he wasn't going, hey, Deuteronomy 31, man, you said you wouldn't leave. You said you wouldn't leave, and now you're gone. And I doubt, and I don't understand. You don't think he quoted that? Oh, he knew that. Oh, Thomas knew that better than anybody. You see, sometimes your knowledge of the word can get twisted. And you can begin to use that against God. God, you said you wouldn't leave me, and yet I feel like I'm left, and there's no one around. You see, that's why Jesus could look at Thomas and say, hey, don't doubt, believe. Because I'm telling you, the fact that I knew what you needed before you said it out loud should show you I never left you. Should show you that I've been there since day one, and I'll be there until the end of time. I'm telling you, you should know. Don't doubt, but believe, because I shall not leave. And I believe Thomas was like, okay. I believe he understood that. I really do. I believe Thomas was like, man, I didn't say that. I didn't tell you that's what I needed, and yet you knew that's what I needed. That's so beautiful of God, that even in our doubt, he gives us what we need. Even in your doubt, he gives you what you need. That is so amazing. Again, sometimes I think I say things that should click really well with you guys, and maybe even get an amen, hallelujah, and a hand clap. Because the fact that God, in your doubt, still gives you what you need is an amazing thing to celebrate. Amen? I know I forced that, but I'll take it. Amen. So what do we do? What do we do? And now we'll speed up, and Cameron, dude, you can come. What do we do? What do we do? I'm thanking God that you're asking that. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6. If they'll throw it up there for me, I got some things on the screen that we're going to learn how to fight doubt. How do we fight doubt? Chapter 3, verse 6. Maybe they don't have it, so I'll just read it. Hallelujah. The Bible says this. Oh, hey, there it is. Listen to this. I'm going to read verse 5 first, and then we'll go to trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Verse 6 says, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. First step to fighting doubt, always acknowledge him in every way, right? That's how we do it. So I want to read to you this little thing that I wrote down. I like old hymns. I incorporated one last week. I think I'm going to try to make it a challenge that I incorporate one every week for the rest of the year, just to see how 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks ago? Oh, thank you. Cameron said 2 weeks. I don't know my time. Sorry. Well, I've already missed, so hey, my bad. So this is how the enemy gets us. If acknowledge him. So I want to change that word again to look. Look to him, right? David said, I'll look to the hills from which come my strength. Learn to cast your gaze in the right direction. And Thomas learns this by the story of his good friend Peter, right? Peter, on that one faithful night, it was all stormy on the seas, and there comes God out, and he says, hey, Peter, come out. Peter jumps overboard onto the water. He's walking, he's running, everything's going good until what happens? His gaze gets directed into another direction. And all he sees are the waves. right? He stopped looking to Jesus. Thomas learns that little story, and here's the truth. If the devil can get you to where you stop looking at Jesus, then doubt creeps in. If you stop looking to Jesus, doubt creeps in. That's why Proverbs is so keen, and it's so beautiful, and it's so right, and you better put it on your, again, I tell you every Sunday, you all by now should have like a bunch of Post-its just hanging around your apartment or your house or your car with little things that I've given you, and I promise you would live a much happier life if you just did it. I try to tell people all the time, if you'll just listen to me, mainly my kids, I don't really say it to anybody else. Acknowledge Him. Look to Him. Every day you wake up, where are you looking? Let me ask you a question. Look around your life, where are you looking? Right? It's a good little measuring gauge for you if you want to. Kind of, where am I looking? Look to Him. Listen to this. Love this little old hymn. Some of y'all may know it, some of y'all may not. If you don't, go find it. Turn your eyes up on Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face. And the things of this earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. Look full in His wonderful face. Look full in His wonderful face. And everything of this earth will go strangely dim. It'll start to pass away. It won't make sense. Doubt will leave. Fear will subside. Questions will be answered because you're looking at the answer. Look full. Everything will grow dim. Where are you looking? Second one. 1 Samuel chapter 17. Right? Here's a little story of David. This is the next thing you got to do. Look at Jesus, right? But here's what you got to do first. These little things connect, and they make a great little sequence of events that you have to do in life. 1 Samuel chapter 17. If they got it on the screen for me. Maybe not. Man. Okay, let me find it. 1 Samuel chapter 17. Here's a little story of David, right? Every time. That's all right. I need my Bible. I like my Bible. Here's a little thing, right? So David, little bitty dude, little shepherd boy, is hanging out, watching the sheep. They don't know it. He's been killing bears and lions. That's just what he does, right? His dad says, hey, dude, I need you to go take food to your brothers. They're the soldiers, right? They're the big dudes. I know you're just a shepherd, so what I need you to do is just go feed them. Just go feed them. Take them some food. David's on his way. He's taking food. When he gets close enough, he hears this big, bombastic man standing on the hill, yelling at God's people, intimidating God's people, making God's people run and cower. Here comes this little dude, and he walks up to his brother. The Bible says that he leaves the food with another man. He says, hey, you hang on to this. I've heard too much. He says this, listen to this, so good. And David comes out there, he gave the food to the guy. He walks out there to the men, he says, hey! David said to the men who stood by him, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of God? You know, David's trying to remind them who they are. He says, who defies the army of God? Now watch this. And the people answered him in the same way, so shall it be done to the man who kills him. Listen to what his brother does. Oh, it's just like a brother. Anybody in here got brothers? This is what happens, all right? Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. Why? Because here comes a little shepherd dude standing in front of these soldiers who had been trained to fight, who were running away and making them feel bad for running. And he's like, who are you to come in here and tell me, a soldier? Right? He's getting angry. You need to go back to the shepherd's fold. You need to go back to your sheep. That's what he says. And he said, why have you come down? And with whom have you left the sheep with? He's reminding him, hey, you know you're a shepherd, right? Why are you here? Why are you even here? Why are you even here? Anybody heard the enemy ask you that question lately? Oh, somebody has. Why are you even here? Why are you even here? You don't belong here. You don't belong here, young man. You don't belong here, young woman. You don't belong here. Look at what you were. Look at who you are. You don't belong here. Oh, it's so good. I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come to see the battle. He's saying, look, you just come down here to make fun of us and watch us all get whipped. Why are you even here, David? You know you shouldn't be here. Here's what the enemy loves to do. He loves to use people around you to question you, to cause you to doubt what God has for you. Huh? The enemy will strategically position people in your life to question where you are, why you are, and what you are, so that you begin to doubt what God's doing. Oh, but here is the trick to it all. He says this. He said, why are you even here, David? I know why you're here. You're here to watch this go down. And listen, question him, why are you even here? And David does this. And David said, what have I done now? What did I do? I just ask a question. I'm here to help. I'm here to do what I know I'm called to do. Was it not but a word? Was I not just talking? Here's the trick. If they'll throw it up on the screen, because I want you to see this, because some of y'all don't have your Bibles open. Verse 30. Go to verse 30. Look at the verse 30. And he turned away from him. You see, some of y'all are looking at a lot of people or a situation that's causing you to doubt. It's causing you to question. Now, there's nothing wrong with you doubting. There's nothing wrong with you questioning. I'm not saying that. But here's what you got to do. You got to do this. At the question, they're coming. Hang on. David turned away from him and toward another and spoke the same thing. He's like, look, if you don't believe me, if you're going to question me, I'm turning this way and I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to say what needs to be said. I'm still going to walk where I need to walk. I'm still going to do what God's called me to do. You may question, you may doubt, and this situation may be what's causing me to question and me to doubt. So I have to do this. Turn around. Some of y'all are facing, well, I don't know what kind of person you are. That's all right. Turn around and walk away. I don't know. Maybe you're in, I don't know. Let's turn around and walk away. Do you think you could do it? I'm going to turn around and walk towards Jesus. You aren't good enough. You aren't worthy enough. You ain't strong enough. You ain't all this stuff. I tell you, keep saying that. I'm looking this way, because what we tend to do, what we always tend to do, is we try to square up to the doubt and fight it off. Oh, you want to question me? I'll stand here. I'll get mad and I'll get angry and I'll argue with you and I'll tell you where you're wrong. But the reality of it is, you'll lose that battle every time. You need to stop fighting and start turning. Stop fighting and start turning. Stop fighting and start turning. Man, I can fight doubt all day, and I'll go to bed doubting. But if I can do this, turn and look full in his wonderful face. But wait, no, Danny, you don't. But no, hang on. And the things of this earth will grow strangely dim. But wait, Danny, you don't know. But you don't know. You don't know. You don't. In light of his glory and grace, turn and look. Some of us in this room need to turn and look. God's not mad because you doubt. God's not disqualified you because you doubt. You can still lead when you doubt. You can still follow when you doubt. But this is what you got to do when you doubt in order to do any of those things. Turn and look. Turn and look. Because in Christ alone, my hope is found. In Christ alone, my hope is found. So today, surrounded by questions. Maybe your own voice is the questioning voice. That's okay. But in a world surrounded by questions, maybe you have questioned God's word, God's will, God's forgiveness. I don't know what you're doubting. And you may not have the answer. But you can look. You can turn and you can look. Would you do that this morning? Would you do that this morning as we sing?
Thanks again for listening to this sermon. And if you'd like to keep up with us, you could do so by going to our Facebook page or our Instagram, or feel free to go to our website at gracemeadows.cc, or we would love for you to come and worship with us at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings.